think the window is getting bigger. You know, it's actually a door, and we can actually accomplish this.
He strikes out the side. Oink, oink. Roman reigns supreme in Gotham. A signature moment.
Swinging a drive. He killed it. And it's out of here. It's gone. St. God does it. The Sox win it.
Hey guys, thank you for clicking on the link to this video. So in this one, we are talking about the Red Sox minor league all-stars again. We talked about the position players last week, and so this week we're talking about the pitchers. And I think this one's actually pretty darn interesting because some of the top guys on this list debuted for the Red Sox this last year. So if you guys like this type of content, stick around, and hope you enjoy this video. The first guy we're going to talk about today is Peyton Tolley, and I'm sure if you guys saw Red Sox baseball this last season, Peyton Tolley obviously had a tremendous major league debut. Kind of didn't put it together the rest of that season, but it was a very brief sample size, and there's still a ton to be excited about with Peyton Tolley. Tolley has maybe the best fastball in the minor leagues as of last season. He can throw up to triple digits, upper 90s consistently. He was throwing 100 miles an hour out of relief for the Red Sox in the playoffs. I mean, it's just a guy that you can get excited about. He played in 3 levels of the minor league system after debuting for the Drive. He played for the Sea Dogs and then the Woo Sox later in the year. And I was looking at these stats before. These are like not right. I have no idea what's going on here, but these are the more accurate stats here for the last season for Tolley. But super impressive what you saw from him. He obviously went into Greenville and he performed, very well. I mean, in 10 starts, 11 appearances, 3.62 ERA. That's really good, especially for a first sample size. But it's when the promotion started that you started looking at Tolley and you were like, okay, we've got something here, right? Because this was already impressive enough. He was striking out a ton of batters, 14.3 batters per 9, not walking a lot of people and not giving up a ton of hits. But when he got to Portland, I mean, you look at these numbers, a .74 whip. I mean, he just was not allowing hits anymore, right? In 27 innings, 13 hits, striking out 37 batters. These are some crazy, crazy numbers. And it all is because of that fastball. And they knew that he had this fastball in college. That's why he got drafted where he did. I believe he was a 2nd-round draft pick. Yep, that's correct. So they knew what they were kind of getting out of him. He was a JUCO, or I don't think he was a junior college. He goes out of TCU. But they were looking at him as a potential mid to upper rotation guy if he developed right. Well, he kind of developed right. And so we are in a really good position right now because as he got promoted up to the Woo Sox, he was still maintaining some of these numbers, not walking a lot of guys, and that's where he gets promoted into the major leagues. Now, you look at Tolley, and again, we talked about these numbers briefly earlier. Not super amazing. The strikeouts were still really good, but he was just giving up more than what we wanted to see, right? 18 hits, walking a little bit more batters. This is a little bit of, rookie jitters, I think. It's 16 innings. You can't judge it too harshly. But at the end of the season, we really could have used Tolley to kind of do a little bit more what like Connolly Early did, which we'll talk about in a minute. But regardless, you can still see the path to Peyton Tolley becoming like a number 2 starter in the big leagues pretty easily. Because even though that fastball is dominating, you really can't get away with just a fastball in the major leagues. It's where that slider kind of combination comes in. He has got a cutter and a slider, and they are more average, but they were showing like above average feel for them as they went later into the season. And so that's where you kind of got the development from Peyton Tolley, where you're like, okay, maybe we've got something here to where he could be, that number 2, maybe a really good number 3 type starter. And if you get that out of Tolley, it's very exciting. So we don't know exactly how it's going to turn out. He's got the possibility to be even, an ace caliber guy. The jury's still out on exactly how it's going to work. But I think worst case scenario, when you look at Peyton Tolley right now, he's going to be like a very, very dominant reliever. Like absolute worst case. If those secondaries just can't come out, he's going to be like an 8th or 9th inning dominant reliever. And, best case scenario, like I said, he's an ace caliber starting pitcher. I don't think that's necessarily quite where he's going to land. I think he's going to be more that type of guy where it's like a 3.5 ERA type guy as a starter, which, like I said, that's like a number 2, number 3 type guy. And if that's what we get out of Tolley, I mean, it's incredible work by the front office to kind of get him in the 2nd round like that. A lot of those guys tend to come out of the 1st round when you get those ace caliber guys. So the next guy on this list, mentioned him just briefly earlier, is Connolly Early. And Conley Early, I think out of the two pitchers that you look at here, he's the one where everybody's going to be like, okay, well, obviously he performs significantly better when you look at those stats, right? The change between these two, 6.06 and then 2.33 and 4 starts. Early came up after Tolley, and his major league debut was maybe even more impressive than Peyton Tolley's, which is saying something. But he went 5 innings with 11 strikeouts, 1 walk, 5 hits allowed. I mean, this is one of the best pitching debuts we've seen from a Red Sox pitcher in a very long time. And he closed out the season with some very solid starts. The next start was, very good again. 5.1 innings pitched, 7 strikeouts. Following start after that, not as good. It still wasn't terrible. And then obviously he closed out the season in Detroit. And then he pitched in the postseason. And his postseason start versus the Yankees, very deceptive, because when you look at that line, it's not great. But when you look at how he was performing up until like the defense kind of failed him, I mean, he was through 3 innings and he was doing very well. And so when you look at what Early can show you, I wasn't extremely high on him, even throughout the season. He was performing very well, but I wasn't looking at him as like the type of guy where it's like, okay, we're gonna get Early up here and he's gonna be a Peyton Tolley 2.0, right? He's gonna be the type of guy that is like, I am going to perform at that same type of level. And what we saw this last season towards the end of the year, it gives you maybe that hope that he can be. And I'm not saying that he's going to be, a number 2 or number 3 type starter, but would it be that shocking if he ended up being something closer to that? I don't think it would be at this point. And that's pretty interesting, especially considering, he was drafted in the 5th round, 2023. He's been with the organization for a while, but like, look at these minor league stats overall. I mean, 3.32 ERA in 42 starts, 200 innings. I mean, 274 strikeouts, 12 strikeouts per 9. He doesn't walk a ton of guys. You want this a little bit lower, in the major leagues, and he did show that when he got promoted. But if he kind of gets these walks down to like 3 more consistently, and he keeps these hits kind of low, and he's striking out like 12 batters, 11 batters per 9. I mean, you're looking at a guy where it's like, there's a very real world where he could turn into a very good middle of the rotation type starter. And it's going to be interesting to see what the Red Sox do between Tolley and Early. Because obviously Early performed better this last year, but Tolley's got better stuff in the pedigree. And so I think that they would be comfortable with one of these guys being in the rotation to start the season. And I feel like that I would be kind of too, but you can't have both these guys in the starting rotation. The Red Sox, I know it didn't feel like it because we just talked about Early pitching in Game 3 of the wild card series versus the Yankees for like his 5th career start, which is just ridiculous. But the depth the Red Sox had for pitching was actually really good when you look at it overall. And we can kind of just take a peek at it really quick here. But like, look at all the guys that made starts this last year for the team. And most of these names really aren't that bad. Like, I mean, obviously we got Crochet, Bayo, Giolito, like the top 3 dogs. Walker Buehler was the mistake. But, they gave him the opportunity and it was what it was. But Hunter Dobbins, he pitched the 5th most starts for the Red Sox. Were you expecting that at the beginning of the year? Absolutely not. Richard Fitz came in. I mean, these are more like depth type guys, but like these numbers aren't horrible. Like Richard Fitz, you want a little bit more out of. Tanner Houck didn't perform well, but like even Sean Newcomb, they DFA'd him earlier in the year. He wasn't pitching terrible. Like he was much better out of the bullpen. Dustin May was a mistake, but like the guys that kind of came up and had to make starts, Connolly Early, Peyton Tolley, Kyle Harrison, Cooper Criswell, Jose De Leon that last day. Like there was enough depth, and there's still guys that didn't call up that you look at and it's like, if they had to get a spot start here or there, could you count on them for maybe 5 innings and not to blow up your entire game? Like, yeah, maybe. And so I think that if you can get some of these guys back, Houck's going to be gone for the next year, but like if Dobbins comes back, Fitz comes back, you have Kyle Harrison, Connolly Early, and then Peyton Tolley, like that's like 5 guys right there that if you only have one of them opening the season as a starter, then you've got 4 more guys right behind that are like ready in the wings that can come up and give you depth starts. And obviously by looking at this, you're going to need it, right? We had, 15 guys make starts this last year, which is ridiculous. Bernardino made 3 starts, and obviously he's not a starter. But like this just goes to show you why depth is so important and why I don't want like Tolley and Early both in the rotation to start the year. I don't want two of these guys like Richard Fitz, Dobbins. Like they just can't be. If you can get one of them in there, that means you get 4 more behind that are ready to go. That's what you want to see. And I think Connolly Early is going to be in the mix. I think he's going to make a bunch of starts next year for the Red Sox, and hopefully he performs like he did this year because it was tremendous. But um, yeah, it's clearly very deserving. These top 2 guys of being all-stars for the Red Sox minor league system. And equally as deserving, in my opinion, is the next guy on this list that you might not have really heard of because he's just in the lower minors, is Yoiker Fajardo. Now, Yoiker Fajardo, very interesting name. The Red Sox seem to be capitalizing on the unique name market. We got Stinson Garcia, Yoiker Fajardo, it's kind of is that way. But we acquired him for Cam Boozer. And that name, it feels like forever ago, but like, look at what Cam Boozer did this last year. Oh, why is that not working? Oh, it was doing this earlier to me too. Okay, well, we can't look at Cam Boozer's stats, but Cam Boozer, he obviously, he had a really nice story, really nice season with the Red Sox last year. But he really didn't do that well for the White Sox this year when they traded him. And so the Red Sox sold high on him. They got this kind of like unknown prospect in Yoiker Fajardo for him, and the guy just was awesome. I mean, he played in in rookie ball in the FCL for a little bit for the Red Sox, and like, look at these numbers that are just absolutely dominant. 20 innings pitched, 24 strikeouts. I mean, we're talking across the board here. These are very impressive numbers. And then we send him up to Single A, and he puts up a 2.98 ERA, strikes out 59 batters. Walks a little bit more than you want to see, but still not terrible. But like a 2.98 ERA for the Salem Red Sox. And this is what you need to get excited about. This guy's 18 years old. He's throwing 97. He throws harder than this now. I think he was topped out at like 99 miles an hour, if I remember correctly. So we're talking like a skinny, he's still bulked up a little bit this year, but he's relatively skinny type guy who's throwing under 3 ERA in leagues that are way, way above what he should be doing already. And let's see if I can get some more stats on him. It's just an awesome job identifying talent from the front office again. And I know I mentioned that earlier with like Peyton Tolley, but they did a great job with Connolly Early too. I guess it's just not working right now. And so I think you look at him, and if you look at like the Sox prospects website overall, and just see where he ranks. I think he's like the number 10 or 11. He's the number 11 prospect. And we got that for Cam Boozer. Like, that's pretty impressive, right? He just turned, his next year is going to be his age 19 season. He's probably going to be in high A at minimum by the end of next year, maybe even double A. And so we're talking a guy that could be in the mix to make his major league debut by like late 2027 if he stays healthy. And that's like a 20-year-old, 21-year-old guy. And again, he's got starter potential. I mean, we don't know what he's going to be right now, but he's got good stuff. He's got that aggressive fastball that can strike out people. And I think that as this next season goes on, you are going to hear his name a lot more on like top 100 prospects lists towards the end of next year. And again, for Cam Boozer, who came out and he had a 5.52 ERA for the White Sox this last year. So it's not like he wasn't like performing for even them. It's just a great job. Great job. I'm excited to see this guy. We'll talk about him more hopefully soon when we get more context next year. But yeah, next guy on the list, we have Justin Holberts. And I gotta say, I'm not sure how to feel about him. We acquired him in the trade for Quinn Priester, and so it's good that we got some starting pitching depth back. I don't know if I look at Holberts and I see him as like a potential major league starter, to be honest. It even says here potential up and down reliever, ceiling of a middle reliever. It's just because he doesn't strike out enough batters in the minor leagues already. And I think if he was a reliever, the strikeouts would naturally just go up because you're going to get more strikeouts in the early innings to begin with, and he can max out the stuff that he has. But he's more kind of like a finesse type pitcher in the sense that like he allows weak contact as opposed to just dominating with his fastball and secondary stuff. We'll see what happens with him. Obviously, he performed super well after the trade. After he got promoted up to Double-A, this is some really impressive numbers: 2.39 ERA and 37.2 innings pitched, 0.85 WHIP. He just wasn't allowing hits, and he doesn't walk a lot of guys, which is great. Like if the command is there, like if you're a finesse type guy, like you can make it work. It's just there are less finesse guys that are starters than there are like power pitchers, right? And so it's just a harder route to take. Again, another kind of wait and see type guy, but he is going to be in Double-A, probably to start next season, which means that he could be in the mix again later in the year, depending on how injuries and things turn out for making his major league debut. And for a guy that was, I think he was drafted in the 5th round. He was just like kind of like another piece in the Quinn Priester trade, because obviously the big pieces was Ferry Rodriguez and then the draft pick compensation. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, he's an exciting type of guy. It's nice to see that he performed after he got over here from the Brewers. But next up, we got Hayden Mullins. Hayden Mullins, I feel better about his potential to be a starter. He just has better stuff than Holbert's does, and he performed extremely well this last year. I also don't know why Peyton Tully's stats were messed up when it seems like everybody else's stats are correct, but in Double-A this last year, after being promoted, like these are some big boy stats. Like Greenville, he was completely dominant in 4 games, 3 starts, and then he gets up to Portland and he's basically just does equally as well. Like, I mean, this is a much larger sample size, so like these numbers look different, but I mean, 96 strikeouts and 84 innings, 10.2 strikeouts, 1.17 whips, pretty good. The only issue here is he's walking too many people. So again, that's where he more likely than not is going to be like a reliever. But I think the path for Hayden Mullins to become a starter is still there. I think they might potentially give him an opportunity because, he can throw in the mid-90s, and if he can take that up a little bit more, that's good. But if he can't control his walks, he's just going to be a reliever. But I mean, he's still probably going to be a major league reliever, like just because he pitches pretty well. And this is extremely impressive. We have to give him a little bit of flowers here for a 12th round pick. The guy signed for under $100,000, which is nothing compared to, first round draft picks are getting 5-6 million like regularly. So $100,000 for Hayden Mullins to be potentially a major league reliever. Like he's really developed himself over the years, and the organization has done a great job of getting him going. But he was drafted in 2022, and so he could be again. See, I think there's a pretty realistic shot he just starts in AAA next year. So if that's the case and he performs well, like he's just another one of those depth type guys, and he could even be like protected in the Rule 5 draft because I think he's eligible for the Rule 5 draft, and it wouldn't be shocking if somebody selected him. I don't know if I would protect him just because he hasn't pitched in AAA and he is giving up too many walks, but at the same time, if you've got the ability to protect him, it'd be nice to retain him. I think he could get taken in the Rule 5 draft, if not. Matt McShane. So these relievers, they're relievers, so it's kind of take them with a grain of salt. We're going to go through them relatively quickly. But Matt McShane here, he did really well in the low minors. I don't know a lot about him, to be honest. And when I'm talking about relievers, like if you're being drafted to be a reliever, like he was drafted in the 13th round, so he was essentially going to be a reliever from the get-go. You really have to strike out a lot of batters. You kind of have to control the zone, do things well. And I mean, he's done that in the low minors. I can't get really that excited about a guy who hasn't made it even to Double-A yet and is a reliever. If he's dominating in Double-A as a reliever, you can look at him and be like, okay, well, maybe like we'll see what happens when we get to Triple-A, great. But I think that he just needs more time before they start talking about him too much more. Jeremy Wayland, it brings me to like the next point here. So like he's somebody that I feel a little bit more interested in. Because again, he's 26 years old. He's been with the organization for a long time, but he's getting close to that point where like he'll probably be in AAA this next year, and if he does well, like he's just a call away from whenever they need him. I mean, he throws in the mid to upper 90s. I think he's going to get an opportunity for a major league debut at some point, probably if not next year, the year after for sure. But he strikes out a lot of guys, and that's kind of what you want to see. He kind of reminds me of like talked about him just a minute ago, like Cam Boozer type guy, where he's that lefty that kind of comes out of the bullpen and just like does pretty well for you randomly. I could totally see that, and you know you have guys like Bernardino we were talking about earlier too. They're like late bloomer type relievers. Like that just kind of happens. I could see this happening where he comes up and debuts at like age 28, and it's like, oh wow, like this guy's got good stuff. But he's still a reliever, you know, very volatile. Like if he comes up and has a terrible 20 game sample size, that could be all he gets, which is unfortunate for relievers. But if he comes up and has pitches 20 innings of 2 ERA, then you know he's going to get opportunities. So it's such a first impression type thing when it comes to relievers, especially relievers that aren't like highly touted. And that's kind of what Jeremy is looking at. Cooper Adams. So Cooper Adams, similar again to Jeremy here. I again, like I was talking about with Shane over here, just doesn't strike out enough people for me to get super excited about. He did really well, really well actually in Double A this last year. I mean, 0.69 ERA, like this is something that you know kind of raises an eyebrow a little bit. Didn't allow many hits, didn't walk anybody, and struck out a batter per 9. That is probably my biggest concern here. It's great to see that he didn't allow a lot of hits, and obviously he controls the strike zone relatively well. He did significantly better at that in Portland than he did in Greenville, and this is a not insignificant sample size when it comes to a reliever, so maybe he has figured out something a little bit more. But if he can be the type of guy, if this is what he walks, he doesn't need to strike out as many batters for it to be successful, because he obviously is controlling the zone. But I think, again, it's just another one of those wait-and-see type guys. We'll see when he gets to AAA how well he does. And if he does good, then he's going to get a call-up and get an opportunity at some point or another. There's one more guy on this list that I want to talk about that I am not seeing on this list, and honestly I'm a little bit surprised about. But let's see if this site actually works right. It does work right now. So he is not named as an all-star on this list. I'll tell you right now. That was the end of the list. So this is the bonus one. This is a me all-star type guy. But Tyler Uberstein, so he pitched for the Red Sox, and I honestly thought he was going to make his major league debut last season when the Red Sox were like desperate for pitching. But they actually called up Connolly early instead, and that worked out great. That was the right call. But Tyler Uberstein, the reason that I thought that he was maybe going to get called up instead is because he was performing really well at AAA to begin with. 3.56 ERA, 91 innings pitched, 10.1 strikeouts per 9. Connolly early had a 3.5 walks. He has 3.7. They were putting up relatively similar numbers. And Uberstein is a guy that's going to be eligible for the Rule 5 draft. Now, I look at Tyler Uberstein, and I look at what he did in AAA this last year, and these numbers are very solid. And this is the type of guy that I think could become like a number 4 or 5 back of the rotation type starter. And when you're going into this offseason and he's not on a 40-man roster, I think that there's a pretty realistic chance that he gets selected in the Rule 5 draft. I would say he's probably the most likely person on this team right now to get selected in the Rule 5 draft if they don't protect him. And I would probably protect him, but I can understand the rationale for not doing so, because, we mentioned earlier in this video, there is like 4 or 5 depth guys that are people you can rely on to give you major league innings, as long as they add, more upper end talent in the rotation. They've talked about, the front office has, about wanting to add like a number 2 starter behind Garrett Crochet, basically. And if you can get a number 2 starter and then like another like quality type starting pitcher that has some, consistency or some track record of success, then you can look at that and then it's like, okay, I've got 4 major league caliber starting pitchers for sure in the rotation. And then I've got a bunch of like 4 or 5 guys and guys like Peyton Tolley and Connolly early that you can get excited about. And if that's the case, I can understand why they wouldn't protect him. but then you got to trade him. You know, I don't know what they're doing between now and the Rule 5 draft. You got to trade him. Yes, I think he's for sure going to get selected. And while he doesn't have a ton of value, he still for sure does have value. I mean, you could get like a backup catcher or something for him pretty easily. And he's the type of guy that, you know, could just weirdly carve out like a major league career. And this is a 19th round draft pick. Like back when they had longer drafts too, but like 19th round right now, they only have 20 rounds. So this is like a second to last round of draft that they got for him. And I don't know where he's at on our Sox prospects rankings. I want to say he's number 20. Like, this is very impressive. He was a 54th overall prospect. I mean, what he signed, 97.5. Yeah, this is like the anybody up to the 10th round they signed for that amount. So we had mentioned that with another guy earlier, but I mean, it's just I'd like him to stay within the organization. That's really what it is. And if they can make it happen, great. If not, just trade him because you're going to lose him in the Rule 5 draft for nothing anyway. So anyway, that's basically the video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. There were some pretty exciting, interesting names on this list. You know, Peyton Tolley, Connolly Early, Yoiker Fajardo. These are for sure the three like best performing starting pitchers this last season. But there were some other guys in here that did pretty well, and like we talked about Tyler Ruberstein as well. And I think that the Red Sox pitching development program is working. It's very obvious that it's working. The guys they just drafted this last year are top prospects within the system. I mean, we have Kyson Witherspoon. He's one of those guys where it's like, if he does well, he's going to make his major league debut by the end of next season. Like, that's how good of a prospect Kyson Witherspoon could be. And then on top of that, we've got other guys like Anthony Anderson. He was drafted in the 3rd round. This was like a first-round talent type guy, and he dropped in the 3rd round because of money. And then there's some other guys that were drafted. They drafted a lot of pitchers again, but it's an exciting time to be a Red Sox fan if you like pitching. Because for the first time in quite a while, I mean, we're looking at this. We got Peyton Tolley, Luis Perales, Kyson Witherspoon, Connolly Early. When was the last time you looked at the Red Sox top 5 prospects and 4 of them were starting pitchers? I can't remember ever. Like, maybe never. And there's a realistic chance that Tolley, Perales, Witherspoon, Early are all viable major league starting pitchers. This isn't like, oh, you know, we have starting pitchers on this list because everybody sucks. Like, no, these guys are very realistically going to be contributors at the major league level in a starting rotation somewhere. And so for Red Sox fandom, be excited what the Red Sox have done. It's I mean, with Stinson Garcia, Franklin Arias, they don't excite me as much from the position player side, but the pitching side is ridiculous right now. And if they can add like a number 2 starting pitcher behind Crochet, and you can hit on even one of these guys, even one here in the next couple of years, then you have potentially 3 top of the rotation starters. And that's only if you hit one. You only need to get one of these 4 guys to be like a number 2 starting pitcher. And then you have a dominant potential rotation for the foreseeable future for the Red Sox. And that is something to be extremely, extremely excited about. Anyway, I hope you guys liked this one. If you did, like, subscribe, do the things. I will be making more type videos like this. I hope I have more time to do a lot of this. It's kind of hard. I've got a young son. I work a lot. But I like to do this stuff, and hopefully you guys enjoy watching it. Thank you for sticking around. And if you did enjoy sticking around, we will see you in the next one. Bye.